I don't wanna waste your time. I wanna take you to a place of mine and maybe talk about the universe. Or maybe we can watch some television. I'm hella with it. Just let me know I'm available. I know you got a schedule, probably on the grind. I just think that you incredible, baby. You know you fine. West Coast. I don't wanna waste your time. I wanna take you to a place of mine and roll another, bring some music. We can drink some wine, and when we wake up in the morning, we can press rewind and talk about it if you want to. Baby, it's all on you. Let the blessings.
Hi, guys, and welcome to Black is the New Green, a show dedicated to shining the spotlight on Black entrepreneurs and the amazing achievements of our community. I'm Michelle Taylor Willis, your host for the show, and I'm really grateful and thankful to all of you out there in our live audience today. Black is the New Green is an original show developed for Radivision.com, which is where you can check out an entire universe of content and resources. If you're, own your own business or an entrepreneur, or even if you're just really thinking about it, it's original programming built just for you. It's a support vision, really, or a support system. Radivision is the network for startups and visionaries, where you can find inspiring stories and profiles of founders who have made it big, but also founders just like you who just want to build incredible companies and write the script for our business future. So speaking of incredible people and building business futures, I'm excited to introduce to you our guest today, Kange Kaneene. She's the VP of SAP.io Foundries in North America. And it's basically SAP's startup accelerator. She's also an angel investor and a philanthropist. And so with all of those titles, she sounds very busy. For those of you who have not heard or don't know much about SAP.io, let me run this quick video for you, and then we'll dive into talking to Kange.
SAP believes that a small input can have a big output. That's why we created SAP.io, our global accelerator program and dedicated venture capital fund. At SAP.io, we invest in, accelerate, and integrate early-stage startup innovation into the SAP ecosystem. We believe that making the world run better is everyone's business. This is why SAP.io has taken a pledge called No Boundaries to empower underrepresented entrepreneurs and drive inclusive entrepreneurship. With the agility of a startup and the wisdom of a leading business software company, we pride ourselves in creating long-term value for our customers and the rising stars of the enterprise software industry.
All right, Kange. Well, welcome to Black is the New Green. It's only our third week, so you're making history here.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for including me.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So for those of us who need a just level set on SAP and SAP.io, can you explain what is SAP and then what is SAP.io? What are the differences and why do they exist, together and independently of each other?
Sure, good question to level set the context. So SAP is a large public company. It is headquartered in Germany. It has about 100,000 employees, and it focuses on enterprise software. So anything running in the background for large organizations, SAP runs. So it's across all line of business, including human capital management, customer support management, supply chain, et cetera, and also across 26 industries. So it competes across the board with companies like Oracle, IBM, but vertically with Salesforce, Workday, et cetera. So, and then SAP.io is SAP's external startup accelerator. So basically we go out in the market, find the most innovative companies and bring them into SAP's ecosystem. So our message to startups is we are the fastest way for a startup to partner with SAP. And that partnerships means that when a company graduates from a cohort, they have an integration into one of SAP's solutions within its portfolio, and then listed on SAP Store, which is SAP's marketplace. So that's really important to us because then we can go to SAP customers and we can see that we have a vetted list of startups solving the problems that they want to solve, but are also integrated into SAP. And that's good for startups because then they have assistance in going to market with large SAP customers, but also have support from SAP sales team that can do joint go-to-markets when they're listed on the SAP store.
Got it. Okay. So you said a lot. I'm going to break this down just a little bit. So, first of all, you mentioned accelerator. And if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken, this is a zero cost accelerator, right?
Yes.
So, can you talk to us a little bit about why that's important? And then what does it normally cost? Like, if an accelerator was going to charge, what would the range be so people can actually see the benefit of what SAP.io offers in the accelerator?
Yeah, good question. So when we say no cost, that means no upfront cost for the startup to join as a fee, but also no cost in terms of equity. We also don't take equity and do not invest in the startups. We view that as founder friendly because, as you probably know, when you're a startup, you're very lean on resources. And so, especially when you're just starting, and unfortunately, overwhelmingly with underrepresented founders, they're less likely to have the bandwidth or the capacity to participate in accelerators when there is a cost. But then also, sometimes the equity ask can be predatory. You're giving up a lot of the company, but it's tempting because the accelerators usually have a lot of value in terms of how they can grow companies. So then founders will still get up the equity just to join the accelerator.
Right.
So that's why we view it as founder friendly. So we think that we can maybe provide more support for the founders by helping them go to market with large SAP customers. When you are a startup that has a go to market focuses on large enterprises, it's not easy. You think of a big corporation like SAP, for example, that has 100,000 employees. You have to understand, who do I talk to within the corporation to be my buyer? That's hard to answer that question. Once you figure out who to go to, then you have to figure out how. How do I get to the chief marketing officer or the chief innovation officer or whatever makes sense for your solution to as a buyer? Then thirdly, the sales cycle. So the time it takes to go from first meeting to actually purchase can be 12 to 18 months. And so if SAP can help with any of those three components, that could potentially be more valuable than investing in the company because you can generate your own revenue.
So yeah, when you say founder friendly, I mean it's completely founder friendly. I mean, and especially in Black communities and Black startups. I mean, we're
Yes,
notorious for having or feeling like we have to give up majority ownership just to get
right.
somebody to kind of buy into our idea, right? So
Yes,
the fact that you don't take any equity, the fact that there's no upfront cost. I mean, it's founder friendly, but and I'm speaking a little biased here, Kange. It's
uh-huh.
like Black founder friendly because the
Yes,
places where we get hit the most, SAP.io is like, no, 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 we got you,
right. You're absolutely
which
right.
which is amazing and awesome. And I wish I
Thank
had
you.
a company that I could, apply to your next go.
Well,
Okay,
when you meet one, you know where to send them.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So when I think about what you do for startups, the
Hmm.
word kind of convener catalyst comes to mind, those words, because it's like, you know, you take companies that would have a very hard time getting walked to the front door of companies that could actually be the clients. You remove
Hmm.
barriers, and kind of convene them under in this SAP umbrella, so to speak, and then
Hmm.
offer these companies directly to their potential clients. So it's almost like having their own sales force, right?
Hmm. Right. It's true.
Yeah. And so talk to us a little bit about then how would a founder, like what stage do they have to be in? How would they apply? What are the requirements? All of those things. Because you say you go find these companies. Can they find you?
Yes, it can go both ways. We find them by having partnerships with venture capital firms, angel investor groups, different organizations that support enterprise founders. But then we also have a public application on the website. So you can find us in either of those options. In terms of what we look for companies that already have a product market fit. So we know they're trying to solve a problem that the masses agree is a problem. And then they have to have at least three or so enterprise customers already. So those are the large customers, 1 billion revenue or more. That's because when SAP tries to accelerate them and help them, it's, as I mentioned before, it's hard to work with a large company. So if you've never done it before, it's hard for us to be the first, hard for you to do that for the first time when we're giving you that much exposure. And so that's the reason why we want to make sure you've tried it before. And so because of those two criteria, the range of stage in terms of funding is pretty broad. We have companies from seed to Series C, and that's because it's of course possible to have a lot of funding and no customers, or vice versa. And so that's why we do see a more diverse diversity in terms of stage of companies.
Got it. And for just for our viewers and listeners out there that may not be as familiar, can you give us the difference between what the seed round looks like as opposed to a Series C in terms of a progression, I guess?
Yeah, so seed usually means, if you think of a plant, it's the very beginning of a company. Seed meaning like a seed in the ground. So what's money that can get a company started, like getting their first one or two employees, getting their initial marketing budget, etc. And then each subsequent round after that is when you go out to institutional investors and ask for more money. So each subsequent round is larger. So seed, you might see between 500,000 to $1 million. Series C could be up to $50 million. So that it's all depending on the amount of investment that you receive. And it goes from seed, then Series A, Series B, Series C, Series D. And typically Series D is the last one until you exit, which would mean either you get acquired or you're listed on a public trading platform like the NASDAQ, for example.
Got it. Thank you for that. Okay,
Sure.
so let's break this down a little further for somebody that's watching, right, and viewing, and that could actually be a company in SAP's bag, so to speak. So walk us through exactly what that looks like. So I have ABC company, and if you have a company that you're willing to promote or share, that is already on the, integrated within SAP, if you want to use them as an example. But what and how does it actually work to get integrated into the SAP network all the way to being available on the SAP store?
Great. So each cohort that we have has a different theme based on what's happening in the market and where SAP feels like it has a gap in its portfolio or could just innovate further. So, for example, we've had cohorts focus on sustainability, consumer retail, future of work, professional services, etc. From there, we understand this problem that the startup is trying to solve and see how that corresponds to a solution that SAP provides. So, for example, there was a company in a recent cohort called Mentor Spaces that was part of our Future of Work cohort, where they're all about the idea that when you have a mentor or a sponsor, it's easier to navigate your career, and it's typically more challenging to find an appropriate mentor when you're someone of color, either because you can't relate or because you don't have a network or more reasons. And so Mentor Spaces integrates with SAP's human capital management solution. So if you're an employee at any company where they already have your profile, they can then incorporate how mentorships are found and how the mentorships are going with Mentor Spaces. So it's again extending it. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And then people can go because there's an actual store, like an app store, the SAP store.
Yes.
So it's already integrated, so people can go and search for what they need, and that option pops right up.
Yeah. Another example from our sustainability and consumer and retail cohort is another company called Lime Loop. That's a company that focuses on reusable packaging. So if you think about when you order something online, it typically comes in a cardboard box, and that can be wasteful, especially when you think about those boxes in aggregate. But with Lime Loop, their customers are large customers, large retailers that will use these reusable packages that can be used up to 250 times. So they send it to a customer, the customer sends it back. The reason why it's relevant for SAP, which is again only a software company, not a hardware company, is because there's a sensor included in that reusable packaging that can give insights to the brands that they serve. So, for example, if I receive the package on a Wednesday and don't open it until Friday, the customer will know not to engage with me until Friday to ask me things like, how is the size? Do you like the material, et cetera, to kind of mimic what you would experience in the store. They also have insights to do things like understand how the return process would work. So if you get 3 packages, only open one, return the other 2, they know whether or not you actually opened it. If you didn't open it, they could maybe send it directly to another customer versus if you did, they have to do some processing, which would add more to the carbon footprint. So those are 2 examples. And so in terms of how does that relate to SAP, of course, there's some reverse logistics required for the reusable packaging. And so SAP has a very sophisticated supply chain solution that a lot of customers use. And so you can imagine a large retailer would need to be able to communicate between Lime Loop, which is doing the reverse logistics, and their overall supply chain logistics operations so that it can be seamless. If you don't know who's returning back the package, then that could be problematic for the overall experience for the customer and for the brand.
Got it. It's amazing to me how much information you can find out about
Yes.
anybody. I mean, through packaging, I mean, it's cool, but it's also kind of scary. I'm like, you know
Yeah.
what I
Right.
mean? I'm like, that's amazing that you have a company that does that. I'm never going to use your company. No, I'm just joking. I don't want to be tracked. No, but I mean, it's great because everything is about data, right? I mean, the guest we
Mhm.
had on last week, it's almost like no matter what business or industry you're in, it's data collection. Like we're all in the data collection business, right?
Mhm.
And applying that data to build more revenue. But I love how you guys focus on the underrepresented population, right? Because
Mhm.
that's what this show is about. And you're an angel investor, right? So you're a black woman, obviously, um,
Uh-huh.
and you work corporately, but then independent of that, you're an angel investor. You're a philanthropist. I mean, talk to me about why do you think there's such this huge gap and void for us as Black founders in this space? Like, why is it so hard?
Mhm. It's a good question because it's such a big problem, and entrepreneurship has been around since the beginning of time, right? So you think that we uh, that it wouldn't be as much of a problem as it is. Well, first of all, when it comes to venture capital specifically, and also angel investing, it is a very collaborative business by definition. No one wants to take on the full risk on their own. So you will only invest in a small portion of the
Mm,
company, and then other people have to invest for it to be successful. So I might say I'm investing, and then I'm going to call all my friends and say, I already did the due diligence. I really believe in this company. I recommend that you invest alongside of me. So that means a lot of venture capitalist firms are leading into their network to make these investments. And so your network is just your network. If you don't have diversity within your network, then you're never going
mm,
to share these deals around. That's the first reason. Secondly, to even get into be evaluated with an investor as a founder, you also have to have some type of familiarity. A lot of these firms get so much inbound that they rely on warm introductions and referrals to even sift through that successfully. And so again, that's based on your network. If your friend from business school said, take a look at this company, you're gonna just do it. So you're kind of blocked out that way. The third reason is so maybe somehow you successfully got in to talk to a top VC. Sometimes the types of problems that Black individuals are trying to solve also support other Black individuals. And so if you're not familiar with the problem they're trying to solve, then it's not that you're even trying to be biased or discriminatory, it's just you sincerely cannot relate. And so then these people are blocked out. So I'll give you 2 examples of how that could be the case. One is not about Black people, but I think it's still relatable. So years ago, there was a particular founder that was trying to sell investors on the idea of a breast pump for breastfeeding, right? The males in the room said, breastfeeding is one of the oldest practices ever. Why all of a sudden are we saying that we need to have a breast pump? It was just something that sincerely they just could not relate to. And it took many years for that to resonate. And as you know, now breast pumps are very mainstream. There are a lot of
Right.
brands that do it. But
Yes.
initially, to get the support to invest in that was tough. When you're talking to men that don't breast pump, or sorry, don't breastfeed, don't know that it could be painful, et cetera. And so another example I can give is of course you've seen all this innovation with beauty, right? How just up until 5 years ago, it was extremely hard to go into a store and find makeup, for example, that fit our complexions.
Yes.
And again, that's based on investment. If you go into investor and say, "Hey, we really need this complexion," say, "Well, what have people been doing up until now? It must not be that important, you know." And so having those conversations is tough. So when you're trying to do a business that supports a problem that's not identifiable, then that makes it even more challenging.
Wow. Listen, I've never heard it broken down that way, but those examples, and then it even goes deeper. I mean, even those three reasons you gave, we could go deeper into those three reasons why it's even tougher. So, okay, yeah, there's just so much to do, so much work to do. And that's why I think SAP.io and the work that you're doing corporately and individually is amazing, because at some point we have to start breaking this stuff down, right? And getting people
Right.
in front of the right people, which is exactly what you do. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, SAP.io has actually submitted businesses for one of the shows on Radivision called Pitch Planet,
Yes.
right? And Pitch Planet, we seek at that point to kind of equalize the playing field and showcase talent and visionary founders and kind of give them a platform for their race. And for those of you watching, if you're not familiar with Pitch Planet, I'm going to show a video really quickly here to see how you can actually get to it from our website. So you can see, you can just go to radivision.com and scroll down and click on the Pitch Planet series. And here you can actually watch all of the shows that are in the Pitch Planet universe. And these are actual founders that are pitching in real time to potential investors. Amazing products here, and amazing stories and amazing opportunities that people might not have to be able to get in front of their potential investors. And you can even see here where there's profile pages where you can click and learn even more about the companies that are actually pitching. And so SAP.io is a huge part of this right now, for submitting businesses to this Radivision original programming, Pitch Planet. So you can get connected all here, right here on Radivision.com.
I love that. I hadn't
So,
seen that pitch before, but yeah, we submitted 10 different companies. One of the companies I mentioned, Mentor Spaces, was on that video just now. So it was so fun to see that. So thanks for calling attention to that. And Michelle, if you don't
no, and
mind, I
thank
also
you.
wanted to share two more reasons about why it's difficult as a diverse founder, if
Yeah,
that's okay.
yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
great.
Yeah.
So
And then
a
we're going to
lot of
stop and ask a couple questions. Just go ahead. I'm
Okay,
sorry to
great.
cut
I'll
you
be
off.
super quick. A
Okay.
lot of VC firms have hesitancy to invest in a company that only has a sole founder, and because they think,
Mm,
if you get hit by a bus or you need someone that can bounce ideas off of you, but to be a true startup, right, you are really taking a big risk financially and otherwise. And so that means not only do you have to do that, you have to recruit someone else to do that with you, which for a lot of reasons is more challenging in the underrepresented community. And so again, that's something that if you're doing like a spreadsheet where you're just filtering and saying, eliminate every company that only has one founder, you are
wow.
probably eliminating a lot of
You
Black
have
founders.
90% of Black businesses,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So then and again, unintended consequence, but definitely a consequence. And the second thing I was going to bring up is also the idea that they want someone that has experience doing exactly what they've been doing. So if you have a fintech company, you have 10 years of investment banking or whatever. But there are a lot of times where you have a company because you have lived the problem that you're trying to solve. So for example, with the beauty and the breastfeeding, like I said, it's just a person that has an issue and they're trying to do innovation to solve that issue. And so just wanted to mention those things. And at SAP, those are not criteria for us at all. It's just, what's the product that you have? How marketable is it? And can we make business together, do business together? So thanks for letting me share those other reasons.
No, absolutely. And I love what you said about experience, right? Because this is something I talk about a lot, especially with Black entrepreneurs and founders, is experience in corporate makes a difference. It really does, because I feel like you can take that 5, 7 years, if you can get it, and learn as much as you can about running a business in each department, basically, of the business, and take that into your entrepreneurial journey. And you can save yourself a lot of headache and problems, and from just getting a lot of that experience. So I think there's some credence to that for sure. So thank you for that. All right,
Sure.
I could talk to you about. I mean, I have so many questions, but we're running short on time, and I know we've got a couple of questions that have come through. So let me just run through these right here. We have somebody from Radivision asked, do you take equity from startups? And you already said no, right? No equity,
Yes,
no upfront fees, all of that, right? Which is amazing. Another question from a Radivision viewer: what's the most successful company to come out of SAP.io? If you can speak to it.
Great question. So SAP.io is a new team. Our first cohort was 2017. So I wouldn't feel right about giving a name, but I will say that we have what we call a progressive partnership journey with SAP. The most lightweight is, as I mentioned, getting on the SAP store. Then there's ways where you can have more support from SAP. So the most advanced option is what we call solution extension, where you're actually sold on SAP paper, meaning SAP sales teams sell your solution like it's their own in terms of how they interact with customers. So that's really opportunistic, because then it's what we call money as you sleep. SAP is going out, making money for you, and all you're doing is getting the royalties from that. And so we have a startup that's at that level, which is great. And now they're making millions through SAP. We're really excited for them.
I love that. Make money while you sleep. And one of the things that I'm getting here from you is ownership and empowerment. And these are two things that, as Black people, we haven't always had the greatest opportunity to envelope ourselves in those two words, right? It's a huge part of my brand and what I believe, but it sounds like you specifically, and then obviously in SAP.io, you are literally empowering Black founders period, right? And empowering them and giving them a true sense of ownership as they progress through their business. So I just want to say kudos for that. I think it's amazing.
Thank you.
We've got one more question here from a Radivision viewer. How is your business model built? And do you get paid by SAP for onboarding high potential startups? If so, how does that work?
Great. So SAP.io is just a business unit within SAP. So I'm a salaried employee, just like a normal, just like a traditional SAP employee. I don't have a quota. So I want the startups to be successful, but I don't get incremental compensation if they're successful, if that makes sense.
Got it. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I got tongue-tied for a second. I don't know where I was going with that. All right. So listen, I just want to thank you, Kange, so much for sharing. I mean, in 35 minutes, we literally can pack so much information into this. And remember, too, this is going to stay on video on demand. It's going to be converted to podcast. So the information that you're sharing is going to be shared and listened to and heard over and over and over and over again. So the impact, we won't even know what it's going to have. But in closing, can you give maybe just a piece of advice, other than maybe join our cohort and we'll solve all your problems?
Yes.
But to the Black founder, the Black female founder in fintech, who is literally about to give up, what do you say to them?
I just say, don't give up. I know it's challenging. You're getting rejections left and right, not because of your capabilities, but because of a lot of other reasons. A lot of times you just need that one opening and then you will fly. So keep knocking on doors, talk to anyone, even if it doesn't seem like you don't understand the value that person can bring to you. Talk to everyone, share your story. I know in the end it will work out.
It will. And I know I said that was the last question, but when you said this, something pinged in my brain.
Okay.
Is there a way that we can help ourselves better? How do we get out of our own way?
Yeah, I think we need to be in more diverse spaces. I talked about how the VC world can be pretty closed, but I think as Black people, we love being around each other. And sometimes when you take a look at your phone and you realize I have a lot of people of color in my network, which is fantastic. But we know that the power sometimes leans outside of that. So don't be afraid to make sure your network is as diverse as the network should be. We both groups, but both demographic groups have that responsibility to make our networks more diverse.
I love it. Thank you. That's great. All right. I know I said that was the last question before, but I lied. Just a tiny little.
That's okay. I'm happy to answer another question. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you. And please, can you tell people once again, how they get to you, how they get to sap.io and find you guys?
Yes, please visit sap.io. It's a website. You can find all the information about us. I'm also more than happy to connect one-on-one, kange.kaneene@sap.com. Thank you so much, and I look forward to hearing from all of you.
Awesome. Thank you, Kanye. And guys, thank you for watching and or listening and or team replay, whatever it is you're doing, thank you. We just heard an incredible story, and what an awesome journey, right? From somebody who's doing it and helping others do it too. I'm Michelle Taylor Willis, and again, a huge thank you for joining us today. And Kange Kaneene,
perfect.
Kaneene, okay. I'm like, oh my God, so much alliteration.
Yes.
Listen, guys, make sure you head over to radivision.com. Check out the YouTube channel. Everything is VOD, video on demand. And like I said, this episode is going to be on podcast too. So you have no excuse, right? You can listen if you're going on a boring commute, if you're out walking, or if you're at the gym, multitask and get this information in you. Be inspired and be empowered at the same time. It's Black is the New Green. And our goal is to make sure that we keep inspiring our community, your community, to strive, build amazing companies, amazing entrepreneurs, and most importantly, share these stories like Kange just did. We got to put ourselves out there. We got to take a risk, and we got to get a shot at building a company that explodes and gets huge. And we know it can happen, right, Kange?
I know it can happen. Absolutely.
It can happen. I'm Michelle Taylor Willis. You can find me on just about everything at Michelle Taylor Willis. But I will see you next Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 9:30 Pacific, right here on the next episode of Black is the New Green. See ya.
Thank you. Bye.
I don't wanna waste your time. I wanna take you to a place of mine and maybe talk about the universe. Or maybe we can watch some television. I'm hella with it. Just let me know I'm available. I know you got a schedule, probably on the grind. I just think that you incredible, baby. You know you fine. West Coast. I don't wanna waste your time. I wanna take you to a place of mine and roll another, bring some music. We can drink some wine, and when we wake up in the morning, we can press rewind and talk about it if you want to. Baby, it's all on you.